Hi, my name's Brian. Apparently I live in Washington or Oregon or someplace that never quits raining. I'm going to show you how to do the timing belt and water pump on your Honda Civic. This one here is, I don't even remember what year this is, it's been raining so long. It is a California model 2003 Civic. You can tell on your emissions tag because it says 2003 in California. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to take off the smallest, cutest little idiot hood ever. Anything that's a plastic cover over the engine that lies about how simple your engine is an idiot hood. Made by idiots for idiots. So you take that off, it's just a couple of screws, and then you want to go through and pull all the nuts off of your ignition coil packs. Have a rag ready because this one has a bad valve cover spark plug tube seal. So you set those aside. Bam, 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 bam. Make a little puddle. I staged this for you guys, aren't you appreciative? So you take those off, and then you want to pull a bunch of 10mm fasteners. There's one on the side of the AC line right here that you need to pull out. And then there's also ones across the top here and here. And pull off your cables, and then just take that little bracket there, hook it beneath the air hose, and get it out of the way. Wiggle off your PCV hose. Set it out of the way, pull out your oil dipstick tube and set it up here. And once you've done that, you've unbuckled all of these, all that's clear. You'll want to unclip the AC hose line here. You just take a screwdriver. Let me grab one and show you. Take your screwdriver like this, hook it into that little tab, and then lean it back. When you lean it back, it'll slide up and off. I said it'll slide up and off like that, and with this fastener undone, that'll pull free. Next, you want to take this bracket up and off of there. It's not going to want to come apart very easily. You got to get it to unclip. It'll go click, and then you pull it out of the harness down here. This is, you can undo it from the alternator and from the AC compressor if you want. I don't like doing that. I like to wiggle the wire around to this side. Isn't that nice? Pull it off and then lay it off the... You just got laid off. How do you feel? It's the recession. So anyway, then you pull these up and off. This is your wire harness for your fuel injection. It's easier if you pull the left side and then pull the right side. I said then pull the right side. It's not that easy doing it with one hand and the camera in the other. But if I can do this, think about it, you can do it with two hands. Or one hand, who knows. Anyway, then you pull off these little bolts here. There's 5 of them. There's the 2 in the back. Then there's 1, 2, 3 across the front. Then you get yourself a pry bar off the cart. Stick it underneath here and twist. And just kind of twist here, twist there. Here, twist there, twist everywhere, twist, twist. Old MacDonald had a Civic, E-I-E-I-O. Give it a wiggle. Wish you had 2 hands and you didn't have a blankety-blank camera. This bracket apparently is easier if you pull that off. This thing, I don't know if it's because it's got the California emissions, pull this hose out, or if it's just the 2003, but this thing is a pain to get the valve cover off, and you're like, well, why do you gotta pull the valve cover off if you're just doing a timing belt? Well, I'll tell you why. They designed it so that you'd replace the valve cover gasket at the same time, so that you don't have oil leak in through the valve cover side, which never happens. Always leaks outside first. So it doesn't get on the timing belt, contaminate it, and create a problem for you. So anyway, I've just about got the valve cover off. I'm going to pull one more bolt. I figured it would come off here. I'm going to pull this one back here also because this bracket needs to come off and it's not going anywhere. But anyway, I'll pick up from there. Alright, so I went ahead and I pulled the little bracket off the front of here. I also pulled this bracket, a little 10mm bolt down on the side of the valve cover gasket. Pulled it up and out, set it aside, and the next thing you want to do is you want to address the motor mount here. The motor mount's held on by 3 bolts, 3 nuts. You got 2 on the motor side, 1 on the mount side, and you set that aside. Then you got this little tensioner bracket that goes on the power steering pump that you see here. Pull a little 10mm bolt. After loosening a little bit, it comes off. There's a 12mm nut here, and then there's also one that's down on this side down below. You can see on the bracket. So you take out, it's usually easiest to do power steering first. You pull this here and then undo those two bolts. The one that's on here, you lay it forward. When you lay it forward down on the front here, then it'll come out. What that does is it takes your power steering pump and it frees up the whole thing to just get it the heck out of there, so that you don't have to be juggling around that. This car has ABS, analog brakes, which get in the way a little bit of the job. So if I pull the power steering pump, that whole assembly is now deleted from the scene, and it gives you access to your alternator. Be sure to pull out your bolts. I like to group my bolts. I'll put them up here on the wiper transmission cover, the cowl, and I'll group them. This is all power steering bolts and things related to pulling the pump off. And this is all bolts and things related to the motor mount. So I put that all together. All my bolts from doing the valve cover and the nuts, they're all right here, and they're grouped in the magnet tray. So that when I go to put everything together, it's all in groups. Because it all comes apart in layers, it's easier to put it together in layers. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the tensioner on the alternator, and that'll free that up. And I'll pull out the little bolt that's down on this side of the cover, and this one on this side. And then I'll also undo this little cap plug here for the crank or cam sensor, so that'll all feed apart. There's a little push tab on that. You just push it in and pull it back out. You can see that I've unplugged that sensor. Where the tab is, say my hand is the connector, it'll be on this o'clock, so that'd be about 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock. And then once that's out of the way, you can see that there's a bolt right there. That's the last one to pull the top cover off. Okay, so I've got the cover off. One of the next things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to align where it says up. It says up right there. I'm sure you cannot see. There we go. Now you can see it. You want to make sure that that one's facing up, and unbolt the top bolt on the alternator. Pull it, just slide it all the way out. You can use a pry bar to pull it out. Be careful because the AC compressor on some of these is right under the alternator. So you want to pry out and up. You don't want to pry down, because you smash stuff and make it leak. So with that being done, it gives you access to the two bolts that are down in between for this bracket. You can see that the belt is wrapped around this motor mount, and the motor mount isn't going to allow you to change the belt to a new one because you won't be able to clear this one from the motor. So with that off, the next thing we'll want to do is we'll go down below. We'll go ahead and lower the engine down a little bit because we can. So I took the motor mount off after pulling the power steering pump. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to go down here and we're going to remove the center bolt from the harmonic balancer. We have our belts off. You don't want to go too low, or the AC compressor can hit against the subframe and damage the clutch. If this won't come off easily and right away, get an oxyacetylene torch and heat up just part of the washer. Just get it to where it's glowing and then hit it while it's hot and it'll come right off. There's a tool that fits in here that can hold that, and you can use a breaker bar if you have to. So anyway, we'll go from there. When you go to pull that off, there's going to be a square woodruff key that's in top of the crankshaft. It looks like this. It's square and small. Even though I know these are going to fall out and become hidden, it took me about 15 minutes to find it. It was on the lower control arm right there, and I was sticking magnets down in the holes, so I heard it hit metal. But just know that they fall out. Really be listening and watching and mindful as you pull that out. Next up is the plug that you see in the center of the frame is going to be removed or unplugged. That's the crankshaft position sensor. And then just below it, you can see in the center of the light is a bolt there. There's another bolt in that round cavity, another one here, and another one there. I'll pull all of those off, and then that'll allow me to pull off the bolt for the motor mount that's hidden behind there. And if you ever think about buying a Nebo flashlight for 30 bucks, don't do it. They're crap. You gotta bang them every so often just to get them to work. They're made in America and they suck. You know, I hate the Chinese ones, so I bought an American one. Paid 6 times the price and it still sucks. Urgh. So here's what we've got. I pulled, you can see the 3 bolts, the power steering bracket is gone, and then there's 3 bolts that hold on. So there's one right there, one here that hold on the one side of the motor mount, and then there's 2 that are down in there. So if you look at the motor mount, you recognize these 2 studs. Then there's going to be 3 studs if you count me. These 2 bolts that are gone. These 3 are the ones that you see there. One's just on the other side of the pivot bolt for the alternator. And so I've got the bottom timing cover pulled. I showed the bolts for that. Here's what it looks like from the side. There's nothing up on the side where my finger is, just the one long bolt that corresponds, you know, that one right there, with the upper cover. So when you get down in here, here's what it looks like. You want to make sure that you pull the position sensor on the crankshaft, and then you'll be able to clear the bolt. Just give it a little wiggle. There's a rubber gasket with it, and there's your tensioner. You just loosen that, and then your water pump's right up there behind. One thing I forgot to mention, see that little notch in the pulley? Yeah, that one right there. You look behind that notch and there's an arrow cast into the oil pump. That arrow and that notch, see how they point to each other? You want to align that. So now I'm ready to take the belt off. So I'm going to get a 14mm wrench, a new frickin' flashlight. My batteries are charging on the other one. So I'm going to pull that off, and then I'm going to pull the 4 bolts that hold the water pump on. On the 1.6 liter, there's a little ear. It's the same water pump, which is kind of nice. But that ear is home to an alternator pivot bolt on the rear-mounted alternator ones, but on the 1.7 alternators in the front. There you are. So there's just nothing going on there. It's just got some wires and stuff that plug into it. So you want to unplug those before you unbolt it, and that'll be able to give you something to leverage with a pry bar to get them off. So I'll pull that off, swap the water pump, and then tension it back. When you tension it back or put it together, you want to make sure that this left side gets all the tension first. Clip it onto the cam with some office paper clips, the big sheet metal ones, and it'll hold your belt in place, get this all tight. So all the slack winds up being on the tensioner side. And then you can put a little 5mm Allen wrench in there and pull it tight. There's a spring, as you can see the spring right here that holds it tight, but I usually like to snug them just a little bit too. Another thing you can do that's kind of nice, loosen the bolt, move it back out of the way, tighten the bolt down, and it'll hold it out of the way for you while you put the belt on. So that's what I'm doing. The video's getting kind of long. I'm going to have to cut it short. If you like the video, be sure to hit subscribe, gray button above, add 2 down arrow favorites in the bottom. Click thumbs up if you liked it. If you didn't, click thumbs down. And leave a comment. If you don't like a video for a particular reason, leave a comment. Somebody's been giving me a thumbs down who's really on it. But if there's something that you didn't like, tell me. I can use feedback and, you know, maybe improve on them. That'd be great. Check that out. I got new wood on my trailer. I'm all excited about it. It's so pretty. I built that.